You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in Northport, Florida. I have a very special guest in the house, Miss Krystal King, and she's going to start out with her song, new release, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but enjoy the song.
Yes. Thanks for having me so much, John.
You're very welcome.
It's 8:15. Guess he's coming home late. If he can't call, then I can't bother saving him a plate. Third time this week. But faith that I'm naive, and I can't wait to hear what excuse he's gonna try to feed me. Pop the cork and pour me a glass. Lord knows this bottle ain't gonna last. Red wine and wine last, don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow, and my glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one will drown that alibi. So I'm raising my cup, getting drunk tonight. On red wine and wine lies. Getting midnight calls, hiding his phone. Well, I know full well that he ain't talking to his mom, working overtime. Where I lay drinking with the guys, but there's lipstick on his neck, so that's a real nice try. For every lie I pour a glass or two, another night of getting trashed on red wine and wine lies. Don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow, and my glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one around that alibi. So I'm raising my cup and getting drunk tonight. On red wine and wine lies. They say it gets better with age, but tonight I ain't gonna let it go to waste. So pop the cork and tip it back. Maybe you can kiss my glass. Red wine and wine lies. Don't it go down smooth? Yeah, it's easier to swallow. My glass is always full. Whether it's sweet or bone dry, either one will drown that alibi. So I'm raising my cup, getting drunk tonight. Raising my cup and getting drunk tonight. On red wine and wine lies. Red wine and wine lies.
Very good. Very good.
Red wine and white lies.
Fantastic. So I have good news and bad news. So the good news is that sounded fantastic, but the bad news is every social media is having trouble picking us up. Every single one.
No.
Every single one. Facebook is saying they're having trouble with streaming, and it is on their end. YouTube is even having trouble. I don't know what's happening right now. It says I'm live.
I've broken the internet.
You've broken the internet. I want to see something. I'm going to try something. Be right back.
All right.
What? I'm live on YouTube.
Oh,
so,
yes.
So we'll stay on YouTube, and then I'll share the video back to all the social media sites. So that good news is we've got one working. So we'll keep going and see how that goes. But I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. I can't believe I'm 4 for 4 on Facebook on having issues, but you know, you as a songwriter, and I've known you for several years now,
Mhm.
but you guys make a live adjustments all the time on stage, don't you?
All the time, all the time.
And we do here too, all the time. I'd have to say this is the most massive, but there is some beauty in making some adjustments too. I've been a couple trips now to Nashville. I'm coming back up at the end of the month, and what's really cool is to watch performers on stage. And I've seen you down in Key West,
Mhm.
and we've had such a good time and enjoyed everyone that comes through there. But we've truly enjoyed listening to you and talking with you and visiting. And what's fun about it is seeing the growth.
Mhm.
And so I want you to talk a little bit about that new song that you just released, and tell people, one, where they can find it, but also where it came from, how you developed that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, before I say that, you were talking about adjustments, and you'll have to check this out. There's a video of me singing Valerie at a festival in Hickory, North Carolina.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
on YouTube, and like in the last minute of the song, the giant banner falls off and like comes over me and then drapes over the piano player, and he just keeps going. So talking about having
Wow.
to adjust on the stage, but that one is hilarious because it got caught on video, and we just left it in. We're like, that makes it better. It's
What song was that on?
called Valerie. It's a Amy Winehouse cover.
Wow.
But
That
yeah.
well, that had to get you, right?
Oh yeah, I was laughing. I was laughing. And the
Oh, I
sound
see
guy
the
had to come.
I actually see the banner. I'm gonna
Yeah,
put this up.
you see the piano player behind, like underneath the banner, like give a big thumbs up and just keeps playing. So it was total pro moment. But yeah, so this is a brand new single. It came out August 25th. And so it's available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, all the places that you get your music. And it's a sassy cheating and drinking song. So yeah, it's definitely a new chapter in my music because this is the first single off of a new album I've been working on, and I think it's got the newest and freshest sound that I've had before. So I'm super excited about that.
And you're talking about when you were talking about Valerie, it's the third video over.
There
It's
you go.
pretty much on the last page, but that's awesome. Um, but how long did it take you to put the song together?
Or the red wine.
Yeah.
Um, we wrote that, and I think like two co-writes. I wrote it with my friend Taylor Hughes, who is an artist out of Nashville, originally from Kentucky. And I think we wrote it in two co-writes. And then as far as the recording process was a long journey. After we wrote it, I played it out a few times, but once I decided to record it, you have to really nail down, like make sure all the lyrics are exactly how you want it, the phrasing's how you want it, the arrangement. So we went through a process of, just getting feedback from other artists and the Nashville Songwriters Association. Yeah, so we just like adjusted as we could, and then the recording process for all 7 songs on the album was about almost 2 years. Um, but yeah, I did it in a really funky order. I didn't do the traditional like hire producer, go to the studio, record. I did kind of a piece, sing it together on my own kind of situation. So it took a little longer, but it was definitely worth it.
So how many songs do you actually have in your portfolio now?
As far as out, I think that was my 7th release. Probably yeah, I think 7th original release. And but as far as like in my catalog as a songwriter, I mean hundreds.
Wow.
So have a lot of songs. Some
So
better than others, but
do you have and I ask a lot of the songwriters this when I interview them, but do you have a set goal on how many songs you release a year? Or
um
not even release. How about just write and co-write?
not particularly. I think one girl I know, her goal is kind of just to write more than she wrote the year before. And I think that's probably pretty true for me. But, I would love to put a number on it, but it's also, being a full-time songwriters and artist, I'm constantly doing something. So I try not to put terribly too much pressure on that, but I try to at least write maybe like a song a week, if not more than that. Hopefully more than that. Whenever I'm heavy writing, then I'm writing multiple songs in a week. But if it's during a time that I'm touring a lot or that I'm recording a lot, it might go down to maybe like once a week.
So let's talk about your touring. What do you have that's coming up?
Oh gosh. So tomorrow I'm heading to Kentucky to play Whiskey Thief, which is one of my favorite distilleries down there. And then after that, the next weekend, I'll be in Biloxi, Mississippi. Never been there, but I'll be playing as part of a trop rock festival. So
Very cool.
tropical rock, Jimmy Buffett style music. Yeah, so it's a big Parrot Head community, and we're going to be going down there and playing a festival. So,
and that's a big deal right now because of the recent passing.
yeah.
You
So
know,
sad about that.
that trop rock genre. It is truly an amazing group of people too. The love they have for the music, the support they give to artists that are continuing that style of music. Those songs, they tend to never die.
Right.
They're out there, and Jimmy Buffett is going to be remembered for a long time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like he's iconic. Like he made an empire out of, I guess, being a beach bum, but he did it well, and he always had great storytelling. And I had a friend who just said she saw him even a few years ago in concert, and he just looked like a kid on stage, like so much energy, so much fun. And like you said, the community's awesome. Like I have always liked trop rock music, but I've never considered myself a trop rock artist. I've started writing a little bit more of that now that we're involved in that community. But even being more of a country songwriter, they really like embraced us and just welcomed us into their community. And we just have kind of a network now of people in the Parrothead community, and they just like come over anytime. You have a place to crash, a place to hang. If you need anything, call us. And it's just a great group of people.
So we may have, and I say may have because Key West has a lot of great connections down there. Have you run into Erica Sunshine Lee?
Oh yes, I love her. Love her.
Yeah, well, she is trop rock for sure, and has a great following in that. And that camaraderie that you guys run across and build, it's just not with the fans; it's actually with each other, isn't it?
It's both. It's with both.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's awesome, both as a trop rock and a country songwriter, and she hustles. She works really hard. And so I met her almost 2 years ago. She hosted a songwriting showcase and retreat in Key West called the Key West Chick Fest.
Yeah.
And I was part of the first year of that. So it was just super fun. And so that's how I got to know her. And then we sometimes cross paths when we're both in the Keys or in Florida, and we try to write together every so often as well.
So what's that experience like when you're co-writing with someone, as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's different every time. I tend to, I want to be productive and also, use my time efficiently. But I think a lot of co-writes, especially when you get into people who are like trying to crank out hit songs, it tends to just be like, let's write this as fast as possible, where I tend to kind of be a little bit more laid back. I kind of want to like get to know the person I'm writing with, so we can make sure that we're writing a song that either one of us is going to sing, to make sure it gets heard to the world. And, if that takes us more than one co-write, like that's fine. If we need to power through and write one in one session, that's fine. But I find that the songs I like the best are the ones that might take me a co-writer 2 or 3. And we just make sure that we do it right and that the song's solid. So I always enjoy whenever I can be friends with my co-writers and we can chat about what's going on in our life. And it's not just like, okay, let's get some words on the page.
And you when you co-write with somebody, there's a really building of a relationship there, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, it truly is. I mean, because you just have to get comfortable throwing out lines and ideas that they may or may not like, or they might find silly. And you just have to be comfortable and confident doing that and doing that on the spot. But I do love co-writing, especially with friends. And just whenever you can kind of cut loose and have fun. And I feel like this song and the songwriting is more enjoyable and flows better whenever you're having a good time.
And you're not the only one I keep asking these questions to, but interpretation of the relationships are a lot of times different.
Yeah.
Are there people out there that you have written with that you really didn't expect to write with?
Ooh, that I haven't expected to write with.
Right.
Um, I'm happy to write with anybody, whether they're um brand new to writing or whether they're like a seasoned veteran with a #1 hit. Like
Sure.
obviously it's nice to write up and write with people that are better from you than you and that you can learn from. But I can't think of a person that I'm just like didn't expect to write with, but I will say there's some people you write with better than you write with others. I've definitely had co-writes where I'm like, this is not working. Like we are both beating our head against the wall, and I like you as a person, but we're not meant to be co-writers, and
So,
that's okay too.
so yeah, all right. So let's stay there just for a second because there are a lot of new songwriters that come along every day, and they're really trying to put their game on, so to speak. But what would you recommend them do if they're having that trouble? I mean, if you're getting together with somebody, I'm sure that you stay friends with them too, and you keep that camaraderie going. But it just wasn't that moment, right?
Right, right. And I think a lot of times when that happens, like both parties kind of realize it naturally and they just don't pursue it. Um, or sometimes, sometimes you just try it again because sometimes it might just be a weird day for that person, or you try it again and you're just like, okay, yeah, it's just not working, but that's okay. Like that's okay. We do what's best for the song when we're in the songwriting groups, and we try to keep the song at the forefront of the process and do what's best for it. And then if we don't write that well together, we can still be friends. We can still collaborate, and that's okay. But that's the unique thing about co-writing too, is you get other people's ideas that you may not have thought of, and their influence. So I get all my influences that I bring to the table plus all their influences. So it just comes up with a more unique sound, I feel like, when you co-write.
I am actually writing things down differently than any time ever before because of the interviews I'm doing with songwriters
Yeah.
and little phrases, little lines. Just
Mhm.
I picked that up from Kyle Whitaker,
Okay.
and he was one of the people when I came to Nashville. He gave me a place to land, him and his wife, and just the hanging out with songwriters at Key West
Mhm.
is the ultimate for us a lot of times.
Yeah.
But it's now learning there's little things that you guys do to try to catch the lyrics a lot of times, or even the title of a song. Do you do something like that yourself?
Yeah, I typically just anytime I have either a melody idea or a lyric idea, I put it in my notes or I'll text it to a co-writer if I know I'm about to have a session with them. Or, I've recorded them on my voice memos. Many a times I come back to it. I'm like, what was I even saying? Because I may have been like half asleep, like head on the pillow and like trying to mumble some lyrics into my phone. but yeah, I definitely try to keep track of all those things. And you may not use them right away. Not everyone's gold or gonna be a full song, but I've always found that it's nice to have those because you might be in the middle of writing a different song, and all of a sudden you're like, we're hitting a wall, we can't find the perfect lyric, and you're like, oh, you know what? There's this thing I wrote down 5 months ago, and it actually works perfect for this song. And so sometimes just keeping those ideas rolling, and the more you write down and the more you're in that creative brain space, the more often you're able to come up with new ideas. Because sometimes I think like, oh, well, if I've written all my good ideas, then I'm like, I'm dry, I don't have anything. But I find that the more I'm writing and the more I'm in those creative environments, the more those ideas come for me.
So you've got a wide range, I think, a wide range of music. You've got some slower things, right? And you've got some more upbeat things. And now you're into the trop rock, which really kind of, I think, widens the scope for you,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of brings in a whole new vibe. But I've interviewed a lot of songwriters who have done all kinds of different music, which is amazing to me because when I first started into this, I thought, man, everybody kind of stays locked in, but you really don't. It's if you love music, you're kind of trying everything, aren't you?
Right. And you have to do that, especially when you write for other people, because you have to come up with something that they would sing and something that fits their style. And you're always trying to kind of reinvent the wheel. So I think we're always trying new things. I thought of my answer for your question earlier. It took me a second, but you said the like randomest co-write was actually, I did a radio, it was like an AM station in my hometown. I did a radio interview. My friend Kirsty Kraus was with me that day. So we were in the studio together. We did this radio interview. It was bright and early. And at like in between a break, the DJ, his name's Hal Rowe. And so like in our little hometown, he's the famous radio guy. And he was like, hey, I have this song idea. Would y'all want to like stick around and write it? And he's like, he's not a songwriter at all, but we went and wrote this song with him. And it was just the funniest experience. We got done and wrapped up. We're like, man, it's only 10 o'clock. Like we've had a radio interview, written a song. Like, wow, we've been productive this morning. But I remember that one being a pretty caught off guard one, but it was so fun. Like sometimes just random opportunities pop up. And me and Kirsty, when we write, a lot of times we don't set appointments anymore. We just write when we're traveling together. So if we're in the car and an idea pops up, then we just start writing. If we're going for a walk, we write then. So,
well, yeah, I try to ask that difficult question every once in a while and sometimes it comes right to them and sometimes it doesn't, but that's like music anyway.
Yep.
You kind of have to play things out and let it all play through, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times can you pick another song? And I hate saying the favorite song because I learned this from one of the interviews, is that every song was their favorite song, and every song can get better, and the next song is always the best song. What is that something you live by?
Oh, I don't know that it's always the next song is the best song or the favorite song. I think I still have like some of my go-to favorites, but it is hard to pick one. It is hard to pick one.
Yep. So what would you like to play for us next?
Well, since you said, so this one, I wouldn't say is my favorite overall, but on the album that I have, that's going to be starting to come out, this is probably my favorite on the album.
Awesome.
And for sake of variety, I'll slow it down. This one's called House Fire. I could say that I'm lonely, say that I'm bored, but hide the wrinkles, press the collar, just put it in the drawer. I could say that I'm restless, or that I'm not in love, but I do my best to pick up the mess and sweep it all under the rug. Call it good enough. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. I ain't sick, but I got pills. Up till now, I haven't used them, but maybe someday I will. Don't drink, but I got bourbon sitting in the closet in the back. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. Someday I'm gonna start a house fire. He leaves for work, doesn't say anything. The weatherman says it's gonna be another rainy day. So I put on my lipstick, take a long look in the mirror, and try not to think about the next 3 years. And how the hell I got here. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. I ain't sick, but I got pills. Up till now, I haven't used them, but maybe someday I will. Don't drink, but I got bourbon sitting in the closet in the back. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. Someday I'm gonna start a house fire. Gonna start a house fire. I've had this ring on my finger since I was 22. And that's a crack in the foundation, man. So we'll get to. And I could live and I could die right here in this house. But just a single flame could burn it down. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. I ain't sick, but I got pills. Up till now, I haven't used them. Maybe someday I will. Don't drink, but I got bourbon sitting in the closet in the back. I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. Someday I'm gonna start a house fire.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how did you write that?
That one I wrote with my friend Stephanie Joyce. Actually wrote 3 of the songs on the album with her. She's incredible. But she definitely kind of has that old soul. And I just had this line. It was like, I don't smoke, but I got a lighter. And I wasn't sure where I was going with it, but I was like, I just have this line and I feel like it could be really cool. I just don't know what to do with it. Cause I was like, I keep thinking of like fire images, but it just kept coming across almost cheesy. And she was like, you know what? I have a line about like starting a house fire. And she was like, I just kind of had this idea of this girl being kind of just unhappy and just wanting to just like throw it all up in flames. And so we were like, you know what? Actually, those could go really well together. And so we just started coming up with those different images of like, you know, somebody who doesn't really drink, but they still have that bottle of bourbon that's kind of hid in the back of the closet, you know, just in case. You know, and who knows if she literally starts a house fire or not in the song. But I think we were just trying to capture that emotion of just being like, I'm like so unhappy. I just want to like burn it down and start over. And so that was sort of the emotion we were going for. And it kind of definitely took on that dark old country vibe.
I actually like it. I like where you went with that because there are a lot of people in this world that feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't talk about it. It's not like a conversation you walk down the street and talk about.
Right.
But the way you're describing it with the bottle in the closet, sorry, but there are people out there that may not drink, but they do have that bottle stuck back there in
Yeah.
case they ever do.
Hmm.
Um, eh, how did how did you feel that in order to write it? That I think that's the catch. Did you have a reason to feel that?
And I don't think it was a feeling that I was personally having. But like I said, me and Stephanie both kind of have the old souls, love the dark kind of sad country music, the
Yep.
old school vibes. And I think country music a lot of times would say those things that people were afraid to say, and it was validating, and that's why people loved it, was because it's something that if you verbalize, people would be like, oh my gosh, you're crazy and scary. Um, but we just kind of wanted to capture that emotion. And I also work some in music therapy. And so I think for me, also, nobody's situation in particular, but I think just taking on the emotions that sometimes the patients are going through, if they're feeling very hopeless or depressed, and they are talking about that in groups, I kind of, there's always some sort of like transference with that. And, as a therapist, you're kind of taking on their emotions. So I think for me, it was also kind of a way to just process some of those things, even though I wasn't necessarily feeling it personally. I was just empathizing with folks who were feeling that way. Um, yeah. And I think we both just wanted to have a song. It started out with just the lyrics and the hook. But as we kept going, it became more about us trying to just capture that feeling that so many people have.
Well, I have to say that one of the things that I thought of while I was listening to it is that I actually work with an organization in Port Charlotte
Mhm.
called CARE, and it's rape prevention, human trafficking. I was putting that
Mm,
with that scenario because I've been with some survivors. We do a human trafficking event, and I MC it once a year for them.
mm,
And the minute that you started singing, I was putting I've got medical experience myself. You guys don't know that, but I've got about 27 years medical. My wife is an RN, so we've worked trauma. We've done all kinds of things within the hospital realm.
yeah.
But
Well, thank you for that.
I was really putting. I listened to the words. That's why I was asking,
Mhm.
because to be able to write something like that, you have had to had somewhere to draw from,
Right.
and your the therapy side um ironically hit home with me. I've not been on the therapist side, but I'm on the therapy side, the helping hand side. But that song that will mean a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, there's always, whenever you're in a deep dark spot, you don't wanna make yourself feel worse, but sometimes, like, for me personally, like, listening to sad music helps, like, just meet you where you are, and then that kinda helps you process that or feel less alone in that. So while, writing encouraging lyrics, and writing stuff that's more uplifting, it's also very helpful. I think there's also some beauty in, like, just kinda sitting in that dark spot with somebody
Yep.
and singing that and being like, it's okay to feel that way, like, so I think that's kind of where that song took its roots.
So a new songwriter, they shouldn't be scared of going down these different roads and really singing about some of the things that have touched them, right?
Right.
You've named a couple songwriters. Do you have, and I don't want to say favorite, but do you have one that you guys just seem to be able to just sit down and go?
Yeah, oh gosh. Well, it's hard to pick just one.
Sure, sure.
One I write with frequently is my friend Taylor Hughes. And we live like 10 minutes from each other, so we get together and write as often as we possibly can, just because we seem to, every song that we write we love, and we feel very strongly about it. but I also write really well with Kirsty Kraus, and Stephanie has been doing her own artist stuff, so I haven't been writing with her as much, but she's also definitely definitely a songwriter I enjoy writing with as well, and she's the one who I wrote House Fire with. So yeah, so it always, there's a few people that I kind of have go-tos, and that I feel like kind of gets a certain side of me. And I would say the songs I write with each of those are completely different songs.
Wow.
So yeah, I get a little more like edgy blues, southern rock with Taylor, get a little bit more like commercial or fun songs with Kirsty, and then Stephanie definitely kind of stick in that like folky old school country vibe. So I write different things with each of them, but it's always, those are three that I really have felt strongly about writing with.
So have you done any college or did you do any structured lessons to get where you're at today?
Yeah, so I took guitar in like late middle school, early high school. And then, so I'm a music therapist, so I did study music therapy in college. And so as part of that, you have to take guitar and piano classes, and you have to major in like an instrument. So mine was voice. So I did take 2 years of classical voice with that. So, which is completely different style of singing, and I was terrible at it, but it's still helpful.
Well, I want to stick with the therapist side for a second, because there's this issue that songwriters have of being able to have a lifestyle. And so do you still do the therapy side?
Yes, but not as often. So when I first moved to Nashville, I worked full time, and then I kind of gradually went down in hours. So now I still kind of have my foot in the door, and I still work on occasion, but it's more of an as needed situation. So like when they need me, whenever I'm available and I'm in town. So it's flexible, keeps me in practice, and it's definitely meaningful for me, but it gives me the flexibility and the time I need for my own music as well.
Well, I assume that because you have such a schedule now. And the reason I brought that into play is everybody has to get started
Right.
in Nashville's, and they have to start somewhere, right?
Right.
And sometimes you have to work and I don't want to say play, because it's not the play thing, it's the work and work thing. But you have to be able to play when you're available, and kind of get your lifestyle going, and then transition, right? So you're in that, you've transitioned, but you've kept your education and your job skills available for when need be. But do you feel like when you go back as a songwriter now and you do some of your therapy, that you look at things different now that you're away and coming back?
Um, that one's tricky. I think I do in a couple ways. I think sometimes it teaches me, and it's a challenge, but it's hard to shift my brain back into that work mode,
Sure.
and into that therapist mode. But it does force me to like, okay, be in the present moment, practice the mindfulness that you're talking about, and truly be there with the patients, because they know if your brain's not there.
Sure.
So it kind of, sometimes it's hard, but you have to force yourself to do that. And and they deserve to have your full attention. I think also sometimes though I'm very like, it's super meaningful when I go back, because you don't kind of have the do it every day mentality. So you're kind of fresh, and you take in those moments of small victories and small wins, and those kind of hit a little harder, I think, when you're not in it all the time. Because definitely, in any job, things can just become monotonous. And I think not being there all the time makes me really appreciate the effect that it has on people when I'm there.
Well, you've gone through the therapy side, and you've gone into a therapy side. Because music is definitely a therapy. It can across the board, but
Mhm.
I loved your answer, by the way. It may have been a difficult answer, but um, because of my healthcare background and my wife's healthcare background, we both look at patients because we're not doing it as often anymore. But
Mhm.
when we find ourselves in that scenario, um, the word burnout, happens in healthcare a lot. Does burnout happen in the songwriter side of things?
I think burnout can happen in anything, honestly, like as a music therapist, as a songwriter, in everything. And I think that's where I really enjoy being both like an artist and a songwriter, because there are times that I'm touring and I'm more active in that. And then there are times that I'm home more and I'm more active in songwriting. And I think it's just trying to strike a balance, and it takes time. Recently I've had the pleasure of having, co-writers that are also friends and tour mates that are friends. And we kind of help each other to have some balance. A lot of times on tour, we would just work the entire time. And the past few tours, we're like, oh, you know what? We're going to take a day and we'll work for a few hours, but then we're going to go like on a hike, or we're going to go see a site that we might not get to see because we don't live here. And we're going to actually enjoy the travel part of the touring. We went in Key West last weekend. We took a day and we went putt-putting and got ice cream, and then we watched the concert that was at the resort and enjoyed the music as spectators. So that's really nice. I also have a girls group of artists, and they were messaging me this morning like, hey, let's go like do something in October. Maybe we can carve pumpkins or go to a haunted trail. And so, I'm getting a group of girls who we can relate to each other, but we're trying to help each other balance that a little bit more, because it can be stressful and you can feel alone and you can get burnout in this career. So that's just self-care, and taking times to do other things is important.
So I like your approach. I'm listening to all the things you're saying, and there's a lot of therapy voice in there.
Yeah.
Uh, do you have friends that listen to you because of your background?
No, not really.
I was wondering because the way you just said all that, um, there's a lot of great information in what you just said for anyone that is in any job.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to have that recharge, that other thing that they do. I'm a realtor by trade now, with medical background, and yet this doing these types of things with you guys, um, the once a year thing has now turned into a weekly thing, and I am so excited about one having a show like this and interviewing friends, by the way, and people we really truly care about, and then on top of that, meeting really cool people along the way, like I have going into Nashville, which I got to tell you, being somebody that visited Nashville prior to this and just having a good time, but having the people,
Mhm.
um, that embrace you when you're really trying to support the songwriting effort. Can you talk about the support that you feel when fans and venues really kind of take care of you
Mhm.
as a songwriter? I mean, there has to be a really appreciative feeling about that.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It can be a grind, and it's really nice to feel valued and like people are appreciating what you're doing. So I mean, like I said, I just released this song, and just the amount of love, the people that have reached out. Um, Also, like there's the Biloxi festival that I have coming up. There's a friend I haven't seen since high school. They went to my church in high school, and they reached out, didn't know they lived in Mississippi, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to try to come to your show." And it's funny how it reconnects you to certain people. Um, and definitely venues as well. Like the venue I'm playing tomorrow, it's my third time playing for them in like 4 months. And they were incredible. Like the first day there, they were helping me set up. They were checking on me. Different staff members, like my sign would blow over and they would run over to help pick it up. And they made sure that I was taken care of at all times. They even like recommended me for another gig and then had me back whenever I played that other gig so that I'd have another one while I was in town, and just, super nice to feel appreciated. And the second time I played there, the girls that I met before ran up to me and like gave me a hug. And I was like, oh, this is so nice to have like that relationship and that appreciation. And it makes the show so much funner too. Whenever there's places in Murfreesboro, I'm friends with the bartenders, and it just makes it fun because you can interact with them and you can joke with them and make them part of the show as well.
So when you're out traveling, you named a few of your places. Is there a favorite venue that you go to?
Oh gosh, that is so hard. I think I like different venues for different reasons. Again, the Whiskey Thief is definitely a favorite, and that's just because their staff is probably the most supportive staff I've ever met, and the crowds were just fun and interactive. I'm playing the Listening Room in Nashville at the end of the month, and that one's always great because people are there to listen to your original music, and they're super supportive of it. And yeah, I think it's even a place on like Broadway sometimes, like even though I'm playing cover songs, like there's certain venues I've played, like Big Jimmy's, that it's just like a different vibe, and you can feel that people aren't just like drinking and partying. They're truly listening and appreciating the music. So yeah, it's hard to name particular places, but I find some beauty in the differences between all the places too.
So you've named a few things that you do within just songwriting, because there's a lot of people that think songwriting is just songwriting. You don't have to do anything else. Once you're a songwriter, you got it made. That's truly not the case. Based on everything that I know before I started this show, and now for sure, that is not the case. But you talked about playing on Broadway and playing covers. So my question is always, what is your blend of success? What is it that makes you a successful songwriter artist in the Nashville and surrounding areas?
Yeah. I think everybody kind of finds their niche and part of their brand. And I think for me, definitely like storytelling songs is a big thing for me. And I do a lot of humor, especially in my live shows. I do have my heartfelt songs like House Fire, but I do play a lot of my like funnier songs about like murdering my husband, or you're the reason that I drink, you had me at double wide, like just ridiculous songs. And I play, so I would prefer to play originals. But I've never been an anti-cover gig person. I think they still have their place. And what's best for me is a gig that allows me to play both. Like if it's a gig that I can hook them with covers that they enjoy and with my voice, and then once I have them kind of reeled in, I can sing an original song, then those people are more likely to come and actually follow me, or actually listen to the song when it comes out. So I think that's something I really enjoy, is kind of having that mix. Yeah, because I mean, you have to pay your dues. You have to do some cover gigs every so often. And sometimes, even if your originals are killer, you're going to lose some people's attentions if you don't play something they know. So I think using your covers as a like a tool, and not thinking about it as being miserable. Play the songs that you love and that have influenced you, and then reel them in and use that to help them hook onto your original stuff.
See, I'm gonna have to start like this dynamite moment on these shows, because that was a dynamite piece of information that you just gave, because it's how I feel. When I go like to a songwriters event, I'm going to talk about that with you for a minute because that's a different style of an event, because we're already there to be captured by what we know is coming. It's just songwriting stuff. But some of those songwriters have hits and they sing them. Well, their hook is the hit, but it doesn't even, it sounds similar, but it doesn't sound like the recording, but it's
Yep.
theirs. And it's truly, I, you made my day by saying that, because I've talked to enough people now who are outside of songwriting world, and I've been trying to tell them you have to go to a songwriting event to actually understand what it's all about. And everybody that we've brought, it's changed how they looked at everything about a songwriting event. And what's really cool is to bring someone to it and actually have them sit there, listen to some hits, and then listen to some new songs. And they're at the songwriters event in Key West. That truly happens all the time, all day long. And everybody says, how can you just sit and listen to songs you've never heard? And I'm like, you don't understand. Where do you think they came from? The music starts truthfully with songwriters. And that's you. And you know how I love music. I love the different genres. I love to listen to it. But the fascinating part for me now is to listen to what you guys have to say about your journey. And I think what you just said can help so many new songwriters, or someone who thinks that maybe I don't want to do it. I don't want to lessen what I'm doing. I think you just told them, listen, you can be more, just let it go and let them enjoy all of it.
Right.
When did you realize that?
I think there's a lot of people, especially in Nashville, there's kind of like the Broadway scene, which is a lot of times always cover songs. And for a while there, I like wanted to play on Broadway because I just thought it was like cool and fun. And you realize it's kind of a grind, but it can be great for you to practice, make money, find new fans. And there tends to be a split train of thought in Nashville. Either you are so on to Broadway, like you play Broadway all the time, or you're super anti-Broadway and you just want original music and you're too cool for Broadway. And I think I found just the middle. I found certain Broadway shows that were meaningful to me. And I played several bars on Broadway, but I played a place called Big Jimmy's on 2nd Avenue for like a year and a half. And I think that one really resonated with me because they, some bars say like no original songs, but I kind of just was like, well, I won't play a lot of originals, but I'm going to sneak in an original or two because I know it's good and I know people will like it. So as long as they're into it and I'm not losing them, then I can get by with it. So Big Jimmy's was kind of a smaller bar. You didn't get as many partiers, but you still were getting tourists, which gave you new people to listen to your music. And they would come in and they would want to listen. And so I would be playing covers and then I'd sneak an original. And then if they got excited about it, they would usually ask for another original, or they would request songs that were like artsy and not just your typical Broadway scene music. I think they were asking for some like Nora Jones and just like random artists. And it was just really cool. And those people would tend to buy merch and they would come to shows later. And I think that was just really a big moment for me because I felt like I got a bigger connection with those folks than I even did at writers' rounds where it was all original stuff, or from simply just cover song shows where they're just there to get drunk and party. So I think that was just a big middle ground for me, finding out that I can use cover songs to my advantage. It doesn't have to be miserable. I can utilize that to get them hooked on my original stuff. So yeah, I think that was big.
that's kind of truly your goal as a songwriter, isn't it? Is
Mm-hmm.
to get them hooked on what you're actually producing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. And it's
And
funny that you said
good.
that a while ago because I was at the event in Key West or the Keys last weekend, and they had a concert with it was Craig Morgan and friends. And before Craig Morgan, it was Shane Miner and Marla Cannon that played. And I think Shane Miner was in the middle of a song that he wrote, and he's written hits. He wrote "Live a Little, Love a Lot," Kenny Chesney. He wrote, Marla Cannon wrote the full Leanne Womack, "Cleaning This Gun," Rodney Atkins. Like they wrote George Strait hits, Blake Shelton hits. They had tons of songs, and somebody yelled out "Freebird," like in the middle of this pro top notch number one hit songwriter series where they're singing songs that they wrote that are hits that people knew, and somebody yells out "Freebird." And I was just like, okay, like it's not just me. Like these are like the biggest songwriters of our generation, and they
Right.
are yelling that at them.
And well, that there's a reality check for you, isn't it?
Right. Right. Like, oh gosh, it still happens to the best of the best.
What did and I watched your demeanor change a little bit because you know that had to be both upsetting and satisfying at the same time.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it was both. And I think they handled it so well. They laughed, and then they're like, "By the way, just you're not in Nashville, so you don't know, but this is a writers round, and
Right.
we're singing songs that we wrote. A lot of them you'll know, but we did not write Freebird." And that was kind of how he responded to it. And people laughed and they had a good time, and they made people feel so welcome because you could tell that they were just enjoying themselves and they hadn't rehearsed. There was like one song he was like, she started and she's like, I don't think we're singing it in the right key. And they like started over. And I think that just made people feel like they were hanging out and they got more into it. It wasn't the stuffy like, this is this song about blah 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 blah, and I'm gonna play it for you now. They were joking and having a good time. And they even did the same thing. They played the songs that people knew, and then they snuck in a song that they'd written that maybe people didn't know as well, but it gave them an opportunity to play it and keep their attention.
So we have about 3 minutes left, but I want to ask you a
Bye.
different kind of. Yeah, it did. It went quick. Always does. But I want to ask you a different type of question because of something you just said or continued to talk about, which was, we've got Broadway in Nashville, and then we have the rest of Nashville, the
Mhm.
songwriters rounds, the different areas. Tell people why they should check out other than Broadway.
Yeah. Um, and again, Broadway, there are some killer songwriters down there. There are some killer musicians
Sure.
and top-notch singers. Um, but checking it outside of Broadway, I think you get not just honky tonk country or rock. You get a wide variety of music for one thing. You're getting original songs. Like you're getting songs that people have written. Some are hits, some are up and comers. But there's a lot of hidden gems, definitely in Nashville. And go and tip because a lot of times, because Nashville is a mecca, there's so much talent that any bar can just find the next person if somebody doesn't want to play for nothing. So definitely tip and love on them because a lot of times we make more money touring than we actually do being in Nashville. So going, tipping, listening, you'll discover a lot of cool music that you wouldn't have discovered outside of that. And I think a lot of times, like even the stars, their gems aren't just the stuff that's played on the radio. It's the deeper cuts on the album. So it's the same thing in Nashville.
And there's some really great venues. When I was up a few weeks ago, I went to Live Oak. I've had the privilege of going on a Sunday night, and the Raise Rowdy group puts on one heck of a performance and a great songwriters rounds. I've gone to the local and have had a fantastic time. I actually interviewed the owner of the local last week. Well, I had a recorded interview with him, and it was amazing. But you know, those venues, I've as much as I've been hanging around you in Key West, it's always was my goal to go and do the backside, and I call it the backside of Nashville, uh, which is where the songwriters hang out. And I feel so privileged uh, to have met so many really, uh, gosh, I think instrumental people behind the scenes, never appreciated, or should I say, appreciated within that city. We've got Rose that's out there, Belcourt Taps, and her experience, and everybody's got a story, and everybody's got their I think different experience.
Yeah.
But the one thing I've always noticed is that the songwriters themselves, they're so appreciative of every owner that lets them on stage. They're so appreciative of everybody who comes in and listens and takes time to at least pay attention to the songs or thank them for singing at the end and tip them. Of course, that is it's a big deal. And I will I will challenge anybody out there uh, to not to go to Nashville, do the backside of Nashville, and try not to have a good time. Because I'm going to tell you, I don't care how hard you work at not having fun, that you have no chance of not enjoying the people that are there. Um, just go have a good conversation with them and experience it, because it is. I think it's a game changer for a lot of people who enjoy music. And I'll stop for a minute and let you kind of finish that.
Oh, well, I was just thinking about there's, whenever artists are picking their gigs, I think it was in a book I was reading one time, and it was like, you want to look for at least one or two of three things, and that's either a good paycheck, a good time, or good networking opportunities. So, as long as there's at least one or two of those things, I mean, I'll take a gig that gives me a good paycheck, but it's not really a great time or good networking. Or I'll take a show that pays nothing because there's good people there that are listening to my music. And that's okay. So I think, just going and supporting artists in those areas is huge. In Nashville, we're losing a lot of our original song venues. We've lost Belcourt Taps and we've lost Cabana Taps and lots of them. There's been a lot of changes. So just finding new homes for writers and supporting that backbone of the music industry and the songwriting world is important.
Well, when I interviewed Jeff at the local,
Yeah.
That interview, for me, said exactly what you just said. He is a firm believer. He was a songwriter too, along with now an owner. And the I think the energy that he had at the beginning of the interview changed throughout. Because he talked about surviving through COVID and different things like that, and how it affected him, and what the songwriters themselves and entertainers meant, and the emotion that he had. He wrote, as an owner, he wrote what songwriters feel every day,
Right.
but he felt it as an owner of the local, and I give him a lot of props. One, for even talking about it the way he did, because we didn't prep. Like, we don't prep for this. This is just a raw interview. But it's, as a therapist, I'm watching you now, because even your demeanor changes now, because I can see the therapy side of you is thinking thinking different thoughts, and you know, there's just there's something really cool about what you guys do, and I just wish more people understood. Um, and that's why I'm doing this. I want them to understand that songs are not on the radio. They don't start there. They end up there, but they
Yeah.
don't start there.
Oh,
And you
how
guys
long
put a
it takes certain even number one hits to climb. It
yeah.
takes a long time.
And you know, when you're grinding every day,
Mhm,
and this will be my last question, so we're about 5 minutes over, but I've when you're grinding every day,
mhm.
how do you keep yourself motivated?
Um, I think when you have a good show, or you meet some cool people, or you write a really good song that you're really excited about, I think you kind of reignite that motivation for yourself. There definitely are times where you're like, oh, I'm just tired and this is exhausting and I need to complain. But I think whenever you surround yourself by good people, that always reignites that validation for you. Or like you said, when you write a good song and you're like, I know this is good and this gets me excited about what I'm doing, and this is the reason I do it. So I think there's just always people around us that keep us going and keep us sane, for
And
sure.
that's awesome. Well,
Love what we
give
do.
yeah, there's it's just not love. There's a deep passion in love for what you guys do, because it's not an easy career choice.
Yeah. And I did the day job. So I've seen the life without it, and yeah, maybe it was simpler, but there was definitely something missing and something that kept me driving to want to do that and do this and pursue this. So I think remembering that keeps me going. Life without it is worse than the life of the grind. So
That is another dynamite moment. How about that? That
yeah.
you've given a lot of great information to
Yeah.
people out there, and I appreciated every minute that I've spent with you, always. But please give everyone your social media sites real quick, because we didn't flash them up as much as I wanted to, because quite frankly, you were full of information.
Yeah, so Krystal King music, Crystal with a K, like the burgers, King, like Burger King. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Krystal King music.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being part of the show, and I look forward to seeing you in Nashville the next time I come through, hopefully,
Yes.
and we can get together. But I appreciate all that you do, and keep up the good work.
Thank you so much, Dan. Appreciate you.
Thanks, and have a good day.
You
This
too.
is Songwriters Souls saying thank you and have a good night. And those of you who are going to be watching on Facebook, please like and follow everything out there. And I know it's a little delayed, but it's apologies because of Facebook. But we're going to do our best to make it a great show. We'll talk to you soon. Bye bye now.